Hi everybody, Chef Rob again. Hey, I appreciate everybody new to the channel and subscribing. Please consider giving me a subscribe and a like if you like what we're doing here. It really helps us out. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you visiting with us again. Today, I'm going to be making buttery, flaky biscuits. And this is, again, one of those recipes that is so easy, but goes so far in what you get out of it. Your kids are going to love this. It seems like you did something way more difficult than you actually did. This is a pretty simple recipe, but it's got some techniques that harken back to really traditional French cooking, actually, when they're making a laminated dough like a croissant dough. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to show you how to make sure that you get those layers in a biscuit dough. I've measured everything out, and I'm going to tell you specifically what those amounts are. But I've also put everything that I'm using, the mixing bowl, everything that I'm going to be using in the freezer, because I want everything to be really super cold. So I'm going to go get those things now. So I got my mixing bowl and my grater and some other stuff out of the freezer. I froze the butter. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add the flour. That's 2 1/4 cups of flour. To that, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/2 of a teaspoon baking soda. 2 teaspoons baking powder, 1/2 of a teaspoon baking soda. And also half a teaspoon of salt. With our butter, to make sure that we get those small little flakes of butter that are going to create all of those layers, is I've frozen butter, and we're going to take 10 tablespoons of frozen butter. So 1 stick of butter is 8 tablespoons. So we're going to do, and see how that comes out. That's just what we need, because you can't get to that point when you cut your butter into your flour. At least you can't get it as effective as that. So I'm going to, again, do 10 tablespoons of frozen grated butter. You're going to mix all of your dry ingredients together. And then, without touching anything, I want you to take those 10 tablespoons of frozen and grated butter. Isn't that a fun way to do that? Get your kids involved in cooking. Make them grate your butter. Just don't let them think it's mozzarella cheese and snack on it. So you're going to carefully stir your butter in so that each one of those little flakes of butter gets coated on all sides by your dry ingredients, keeping it as cold as you can without touching it. That's why I don't use my hands, is you melt your butter quite quickly. Okay, now I'm going to add 1 cup of buttermilk. And keep that going. You got to be careful not to overmix biscuit dough. So I'm going to just incorporate that 1 cup of buttermilk so that it starts to pull this together, and we can pour it out on the counter. Okay, at this point we're into this recipe maybe 3 minutes or so. So this is another one of those real quick ones. And I want you to take that biscuit dough that really looks like it's just a shaggy mass, and I want you to put it out on your counter, and I want you to start to help this to come together. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a little technique where you slide your palm across the flour, and that makes those little pieces of butter flatten out and create striations in the dough. Now you need to remember we've got all of those layers of butter, and I'm just going to pad this out because we're not wanting to create any gluten structure in there at all. We're not wanting to work the dough. We're just wanting to make sure that this is padded out to about a 1/2 inch thickness and that it comes together. And it might come up on us a little bit, but that's all right. We're just making sure that those are about a 1/2 inch thick. And again, it's still kind of that flaky, shaggy looking dough, but it'll really come together. Don't overwork it. I heated my oven to 350 degrees, and I'm also preheating a cast iron pan in there. So I'm going to cut my biscuits out by going straight down and then getting that out of there. Oh. Okay. You'll go right down through those, push and twist, and then you may need to get that out of there with a little bit of a knife. If you had a biscuit cutter, which I don't, that would come out easier, but that's just fine. Now you want all those layers. That's what's going to be so important to you. So you cut out all of your biscuits. And put them carefully on the counter. If they come apart a little bit, that's just fine. Stop. I gathered the remnants of the dough back up, and I'm going to cut another 4 biscuits out of this. It looks like I got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 biscuits out of that, so that's just about perfect. I've got my cast iron pan in the oven. I'm going to pull that out. Again, I've got the oven set to 350 degrees, and you're going to want to put these in so that they run into each other, because they will help each other rise if they're touching one another. So let's see if we can get one more in on the side there, and maybe only one in the top. So that's only 8 of the 9 that we cut out, but that's just fine. Now we're going to take another 2 tablespoons of butter, and brush the top of those. And then we'll put them in the oven for about 25 minutes. So, okay, while those are baking, let's make some simple sausage gravy by browning some sausage in a skillet. As your sausage browns, be sure and break that up. I'm going to put some pepper, some salt, and some garlic. All right, I've cut up some flat leaf parsley and some green onions. I'm going to put the onions in there now because I want those to cook a little bit, but I'm going to add the parsley because fresh herbs are so delicate. I don't want to cook them, so we're going to add those when we're finished. So again, cut up your sausage, and when it's to about the right consistency that you like, but it's not all the way cooked yet, go ahead and add a couple of tablespoons of flour. Now what we're doing here is we're making an in-pan roux. We're not just making it out of butter, and we're using the fat of the sausage to be the fat that coats all the flour molecules that need to become in separation so they don't make lumps when you add the milk. But we're just making a simple roux, and you want to cook the flour a bit for a few minutes so it doesn't have a paste-like or raw flour taste. Now, when your sausage is browned and your flour that you added is nice and toasted, and you don't have any more raw flour in there, you're going to add a couple of cups of milk. Now, I don't know how much I'm going to add at this point. I'm going to reserve some. That's probably about 2 cups. But I'm going to reserve some so that I want the sauce consistency to be that of a nice gravy. So I'm going to see if the amount of flour that I put in there is enough to thicken up a cup and a half. And if it makes it too thick, I still have more to add. And if it is a little too thin, like it is right now, it's only going to come to full thickness once you boil it and cook it down a little bit. But if it seems like it's still too loose, just keep cooking it down, and it'll thicken up for sure. Now it's starting to thicken up really nicely. In fact, I think I'm going to add a little bit more to loosen it up a bit and cook it down still a little bit more. But that's as simple as a sausage gravy is. A wonderful consistency. Remember, cooking is tasting all along the way, so you're tasting for pepper, you're tasting for salt. That's to the consistency that I like it now, so I'm going to turn off the heat and add that parsley. And that's our country sausage gravy. Let's go check on those biscuits. So let's go ahead and check the biscuits. Well, they're looking good. You can see that they have started to puff up. Every one of the little pieces of butter create a little pocket of steam because of the moisture in the butter, and that's what creates those little pockets of separation, those little puffy layers. Okay, these have been in here for about 25 minutes and they look really, really beautiful. I'm going to take them and put them out on the counter. I'm going to brush them with butter again because why not? Grab one of these and show you what it is that we're talking about. And those are still really hot, but that's that flake apart, perfect. Put some butter on that. Maybe a little strawberry jam from this last summer. I'm telling you. Oh my heavens. So good. Let's grab another one of these. Put that in a pot. Some of our sausage gravy on there. Let's give this a try. So, butter flaky biscuits, country sausage gravy. Oh my heavens, so good. Your family's gonna love this. You're gonna have no problem gathering them around your table. They'll probably come into the kitchen and start taking this food themselves before dinner. So spend some time, not much, but spend some time making great, amazing food for your family. You'll get them around the table. They'll want to be with you. You'll have conversations that you never had before. Food is magical when it comes to creating memories and relationships and things to do together. Make these biscuits with your kids. Kids love to get their hands into stuff. Enjoy.